Two vets, two different worlds, one badass show. Center Mass with Rob and Silent J, blowing your mind away on the Vets Own Media Network.
Good evening, everybody. This is Silent J, the better-looking half of the duo, Rob and Silent J from Center Mass. Rob should be here, but I think he was attacked by God. We're on the California coast, so he might be with us momentarily. If not, I'm going to do my best. See, I dress like Rob. I have a polo on tonight, so whenever Rob jumps in, we'll have our fun. But in a moment, I'll introduce our guests, and you might know Patrick from Tactical 16. He was on a couple weeks ago. But before we do that, a quick word from our sponsor.
If you or someone you know is looking for a new job or career, you need to visit the pros. National Career Fairs at ncfairs.com. National Career Fairs hosts over 300 career fairs a year nationwide. The events are free and give you the perfect chance to meet some of the top employers in your area face-to-face. To find the nearest career fair to you, visit ncfairs.com. Again, that's ncfairs.com. What are you waiting for?
Waiting for a better jingle. That's what I'm supposing. Waiting on. But anyway, this is Center Mass with Rob and Silent J. Rob is not here right now. I am Center J. Before we get into this evening's show, first I'd like to put out that next week we are going to have Tactical 16's latest author on this show. We're going to talk about his book. It's our very first book written and published by a Vietnam vet, so that should be interesting. And then the following week we're going to have Ivan from that show, which you can hear on VetsOnMedia.com and the Vets on Media Network. Ivan's show is you would say, an urban flavored show. That show. Oh, and there's Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Joe.
There's the other half of Rob and Silent J. So he is here. So I'm gonna just to get him in the groove of things. Bear with me, Patrick. We were gonna play that lovely intro music again because that's what gets Rob's synapses firing.
Two vets, two different worlds, one badass show. Center Mass with Rob and Silent J, blowing your mind away on the Vets Own Media Network.
Yes, on the Vets on Media Network. And I had a song picked out because, in my humble opinion, I'm going to find a song for every show. And we have some masters of breathing and yoga and meditating and floating and all that other fun stuff. So this is the song just for them. I'm going to play less than 30 seconds because I don't want to get sued. Well, I'll get sued and Rob will pay the bill. There. That's the only breathing song I know. And enough of that so we don't get sued. But
I just had a 4.5-hour commute on the way back from Yosemite, so I listened to a lot of music in the last 4 hours. Breathe In by Sia. I thought that would have been the one that you would have gone with. Actually, not you. No, that would have been the one I would have gone with. But
by Seal? No, not me.
Sia, not Seal, not Puckface guy. The Seal. Sia, the chick from it's from the Golden State soundtrack. It doesn't matter. It's a beautiful song. You should listen to it sometime, Joe. It might help you calm down with all of your snow blindedness that's going on right now.
Well, you see, a little part of me has changed.
Oh shit! It's gone. Yes,
so,
the world is a much better place today.
And I'm getting a haircut tomorrow. So back to.
I can't agree with that. I can't
Well,
no.
I'm back to work, so to speak, with the Army. So I'm getting there, but my chin hurts right now. It's so tender. And I was outside watching a football game. I went to the Bills and Browns game today, and my face feels as if it's a little windburnt. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Vitamin E. I'm going to lather on my chin before I go to sleep tonight.
That's the one place that I think it should be required to have facial hair. If you're anywhere that actually gets anywhere like near zero, especially below, it should just be a requirement to have some armor on your face.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the only armor I can grow on my face. But I was fine because everybody was angry that I grew that, and I wanted to get rid of it a long time ago. and I decided against it until my best friend insulted me by saying I look like somebody that I don't particularly care to look like. So I got rid of it. Yeah.
Who's
That's
that?
Somebody that we know.
Well, who did they say that you look like?
Oh, this guy. He's we used to be friends with, but he basically lives in the mountains and grows pot, hates cops, and everything else. He's kind of like the Unabomber of upstate New York. So, hi, Jeff.
Well, okay. At least it's somebody famous, so that's not too bad. Could be worse. Could be a pedophile or something. Because there was a lot of comments about that looking like something that belonged on a porn star, which I think would be a very different type of compliment in and of itself.
Yes. So anyway, we have our guests from Vitality, based out of Chandler, Arizona. We have Patrick, and then is it Erica?
Yes.
Erica, and they are our guests tonight. Rob and I was telling you about them, folks from Vitality, which check out on Twitter, Facebook, Google Hangouts, or Plus, whatever you want to call it, or Vitality.com. And it's really cool. So there.
Well, and that's so that I know that you guys got to have a conversation when y'all were on the Tactical 16 show with Joe a little bit, and unfortunately I missed out on that. I've been working on a lot of stuff lately, and I didn't get to sit in on the conversation. So I hope I don't ask anything twice, because from what I got from Joe after you guys talked, I've been really excited to be able to sit down and talk with you. But that's the first thing I asked, 'cause I know that Joe put out to everybody, both that listen to our show and on the Vets on Media Network altogether, the fact that where you guys live, that you're offering a discount for anybody that comes in and sees your shop and comes and tries out your shop. Where is Chandler in relation within Arizona? So what part of Arizona are you guys in?
We are 20 minutes south of Phoenix, so in that Phoenix Metroplex area, everything's connected here. It's just one giant city.
Okay, cool. So maybe we should send Jamie and not Jamie. Jamie's otherwise indisposed right now, but Adam. I think Adam would actually have a good time if he could go down there and have a visit. How close are you guys to Sedona?
I told you, if you guys saw a plumpy guy with a Wisconsin accent, then
we're on the lookout for him. We haven't seen him yet. We're about 2.5 hours from Sedona, so we're a little ways away, but it's a nice trek, good spot.
Yeah, I've heard wonderful things. I've never been able to make it out there, but it's definitely on the short list of places I got to go soon. Joe and I have a little trip to Peru that we want to make to go on a little journey. Did you guys get to talk about that at all last time?
We did not.
no.
I think it's something we'll cover at some point tonight, because I've got a list of about 5 things that I just got to go on. More of a, Joe and I both spent some time in the Army, so I'm sure you guys got to go over that, and we've seen some interesting places as such, and I've gotten to see some really good places. I've traveled a lot, got to see some really bad places. So I think now more of my vacations are spent on more of a spiritual vacations, rather than going to a beach and just getting drunk. I'd rather go do things that mean a lot, whether it be seeing art and architecture and history, or going to somewhere like Sedona or Peru and going and doing some kind of different experience. And so that's one of our big things for going down there. Sedona, I've heard a lot of really good, uplifting things, and I think it just kind of ties into a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing as far as kind of spirituality and being connected with yourself is concerned.
Absolutely. So I think that connection to self is certainly a starting point for everything we do. And Jay and I talked a little bit about float tanks last week. That is a nice kind of entry piece into connecting to yourself. I think you have recently got in a tank. Is that true, Rob?
No, I was supposed to, and I got super sick to the point where I thought I was going to die of pneumonia. I was like, I'm one of those guys, like a little cough. I either just never get sick, or I get like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die tomorrow sick. And that was, we had the same week where we both were supposed to go do it. I am insanely interested in doing it, though, and that's why I've got a million questions for you guys, because from everything that I've heard about it, it's exactly what I need, because I've been on this kind of spiritual enlightenment path for a while. my biggest problem is my brain. I can't shut it off, right? So meditation for me has always been a very difficult thing. It's because I think that's the key part of meditation is once you get to that point where you can really quiet your mind and not get upset that you can't quiet your mind, then you kind of break through that and you start going to another level. I can't get to that point. And that's the great thing about a float tank is that it kind of forces you in there, right?
It's so true. That's what I say. It's totally a shortcut to meditation because it takes away all those distractions that we all deal with when we try to meditate and get to that quiet space. And we've kind of found the more people that we've had floating, those people that come in and say that they have that super busy mind, overactive mind, and can never settle down, they actually enjoy the float the most because I think it's just that first chance of, that first piece of quiet space that they have ever been able to find, and it just is kind of, it opens them up to it and they can just relax, which is different than you might think than would make sense, but that seems to be what we're finding.
Yeah, and it's so hard to find these days.
It's probably a good thing that Rob's not going to have his first experience at your studio because I think once he relaxes his mind, I think he's going to barricade himself in there and then just. He's like, no, I'm not giving this up. I've been on this for 30+ odd years, so I ain't letting it go.
It's amazing how much, and that's, it's one of the biggest things with other authors that really bothers me is I hear these authors that, they complain about writer's block, and I've got 26 books right now sitting in my files that I'm waiting for time to get to write. A lot of people complain about not having writer's block. I just don't have the time to sit down and actually get to all the stuff that I already have in my queue, and so that's it. I just can't. And I have a new idea every 2 or 3 days, and it just drives me insane because I can't ever slow it down. It's just, I know it's a gift and a curse, but I would love it. Like that's the thing. I'm really looking forward to some kind of space I can really get into. So I guess that's probably the best place to start is for anybody that has no idea what we're talking about when we're talking about a float tank. What is it? What exactly is it? And what makes that up, and why is that experience so special?
Yeah, the experience is special to me because it allows the user to kind of experience infinity, which infinity and stillness and oneness at the same time. And I think that's a very hard emotional mental state to replicate. The construction of the tank itself is quite honestly pretty simple. So it's a large, our tank is a 9 by 4.5 by 4 foot compartment that holds 11 inches of water. We saturate that water with a mixture of Epsom salt and Dead Sea salt that raises the specific gravity of the water, creates a surface that the human body is very buoyant upon. And then the container that the water is in closes off, creates a barrier between your body and any outside information. So it truly does deprive your physical state of any external sensory information, and you're just left alone with yourself, and maybe for the first time for a lot of people. And it's funny Jay said you might not want to come out, because we've had people come out afterwards and say, man, I really did not want to get out. I wanted to be in there more.
Yeah, my first few minutes, and I was sad when it was time. Like I could literally have done that for hours. I mean, it's going to be a purchase one of these days. I already know it.
Yeah, well, I remember talking to you after that, and you were saying that you were so happy you wanted to like walk down the street and sing songs and say hi to everybody, and then
I just wanted to have nice conversations with people. Here I am in New York, by volume, the most anger you'll ever find anywhere, other than like Chicago during baseball season. And I'm that typical like. Yeah, I'm a happy person. I'm a nice guy, but I'm also I enjoy my anger, so to speak. That miserable edge, I kind of strive for that edge. I just completely lost that part of my personality for a time, and it was just like, wow, I feel so happy and so calm. I just want to go share that experience. Then I realized where I was, and I'm like, no, I'm going right home because I don't want anybody to ruin this buzz I have.
Well, and that's, it's amazing how whatever way you find, like whatever way you do it, just that ability to disconnect from nature. And that's, why I was a little bit late today. I spent the weekend up at Yosemite. So one of our friends of the network, Grease Bastard, he's on Chairborne Radio and on a couple other shows, his family has a cabin in Yosemite right on the river, and it's beautiful because my phone gets zero connection there. It just nothing. Mine doesn't. My girlfriend's doesn't. You have zero connectivity. They don't have Wi-Fi in the house. So it's one of those things that once you get within about a 20-minute range of that place, there's no more outside world. I just turn off the phone and I can't connect. And it's a whole different level. It's not being inside of the tank, but at least that's one level of that craziness that I can kind of distance myself from. And even that, like, I feel so much better. I didn't shower for 3 days, which puts me like right in my element because I'm a dirty, Army guy, and that's just makes me happy. But just not having that like cell phone, get a text message at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm trying to sleep and I'm going to be up at 6, or not having that urge to go like, oh, who's inviting me to play Candy Crush on Facebook? Just that separation makes you feel great. So, this whole, and how long do you go in for? It's typically, what, an hour?
Ours are typically an hour. Yeah, I mean, it's not 3 days in the woods, but it's similar. I mean, that disconnect from information is very similar to that natural human state of kind of existing without EMFs, constantly barbaring us with just more and more electrical kind of energy.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
What do you guys think with? I mean, I think you're both old enough to remember when we didn't have all these devices, strapped to us, pads, iPads, tablets, smartphones, Wi-Fi, all this stuff. I remember there was the time where, I know it sounds cliche, but you went outside to play. You went outside to have fun. I might be dating myself a bit. But in that age where you're almost dependent on that, form of technology in a way, like how important is it? And I'm so guilty of being addicted to my little creature features. But how important is it to just, like Rob did, for example, just shed everything and just not have that pressure, not have that, that stress from contact with anybody and everybody, at all times?
I think it's super important, and it's something, and I know we haven't talked a lot about yoga, but just to kind of bring that into the mix too, that's, and what we said at the beginning, remembrance of self is such a key piece to our lives that I think we've kind of forgotten is an important key piece to our lives. We're so tuned into all the details that are happening, like you said, whether you're playing a game with somebody on the phone or just checking stats and updates or checking your emails 500 times a day. We were just talking the other day about that you used to check and answer emails like once a day. That was normal. And now if you send an email and don't hear back within an hour, you're like frustrated. Why you haven't heard back? What's going on? Where are they? And it's such a mindless thing we get wrapped up into, and it pulls us away from ourselves. So spending 3 days in the woods, you said it wasn't the tank, but I mean that's even better than the tank, honestly, is just to have that nature around you and to be more in that natural setting.
And to touch the earth. I mean, to actually physically create a connection with the earth and allow the electromagnetic field that is your body to discharge. I mean, we're designed to actually physically touch the earth. And there's people that probably live their lives without ever touching the earth. I mean, you think about rubberized shoes, you think about concrete, sealed concrete, ceramic tile, floors that aren't conducting the current from the earth. There's people that probably never get that discharge, and our body needs that discharge. We're designed for it.
Well, I have a very good friend of mine who's he's a salesman, not a salesman, he's a marketing guy, kind of a salesman. But what he does, he owns his own company. He's a New Zealander, and his job is to basically go around the world, and he gets paid by alcohol companies to go to bars all around the world and do these studies of other people drinking in other cultures. So he gets to go back to the the company, whether it be Bud Light or Maker's Mark or whoever, and say, oh well, in Japan, the 32 to 36-year-old male typically drinks 12 high-priced beers a night. Whatever, marketing study on booze. He gets to travel a lot. A couple of years ago, he was on a plane with the guy that used to be the Beatles spiritual guy, the Maharaja, I can't remember exactly what his name is. But they had a really long conversation because this guy's a pretty deep guy. And one thing that he was saying is that a lot of guys, men can typically release bad energy in two ways. And so this is why you get a lot of these guys, if you're in a high-powered situation, whether it's a CEO of a company or a politician or a celebrity or something like that, you're around a lot of bad energy throughout the day. You were getting into the Earth's energy. I'm a strong believer in vibrational energy, that once you come into a person that has a lower vibration, there's some bad vibrational energy that can rub off on you, and you get into these bad situations, you get bad energy within you, and he was saying the only two ways for a man to expend this bad energy is through sex with a woman, and so that's why a lot of these high, powerful guys will have affairs and have multiple affairs, because it's their way of releasing this bad energy. The other way is physically connecting with the earth, whether it be gardening or going out, taking your feet off, walking around barefoot, just doing hands on earth. Whether it really literally be hugging a tree, planting some herbs or whatever it might be, but just getting in with that earth, you can discharge that negative energy.
Totally makes sense. I mean, everything we kind of talk about is that release piece, and maybe there's some more ways. Maybe movement gets involved in some of that release of energy, but certainly those two aspects are vital energy release points. And I always say, one of the things I always talk about is we are basically pressure cookers, and if you don't find a way to positively release your energy, it's going to release somewhere, and you might not be able to control that pressure when it explodes. So finding those positive releases of energy, I feel that's one of the most important things. So you don't just walk around as a very lit fuse on an explosive device, because you don't know when your energy is going to kind of burst out of you if you're just constantly taking in and taking in and taking in without releasing. So finding those positive releases, whatever they are, and I think they vary for different people. I think maybe it's movement, maybe it's connection, maybe each individual kind of has a different release that works best for them. But finding it and paying attention, that's the other piece, is paying attention when you find those releases so that you can go back to them, because that's a key piece.
Yeah,
and that's something we're not very good at these days, is paying attention.
Yeah. When you were on a week or two ago, and you brought up Erica, her forte, well, like she's more knowledgeable on like breathing techniques and stuff like that. And that was one example that I used when I was active duty in the Army. I would get so frustrated and I'd literally want to rip somebody's head up. Maybe not literally, but very close to it. I don't think I have strong enough fingers for that. But yeah, I'd be so frustrated, like being, like we were talking about, being in that box, being in that cube, where it's like, this is not my job. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I would pick up breathing techniques like shamanistic breathing, different types of breathing like that. Now, Erica, you being more knowledgeable on that, how important is something like that, where if you can't get that escape, if you can't float, or if you can't, get outside, or get away for a long weekend, or something like that, like what are some of the techniques that you're big on in terms of just having that? Maybe that tiny release, if you take 5 minutes out of a busy day and do something just to, kind of like recharge yourself or clear your mind.
Yeah, I think that's super important to bring up, that we all can't get away to Yosemite once a month for 3 days, right? And that's kind of my experience. My path is yoga, and yoga is a little bit, I think, misunderstood as just the physical practice of doing the different postures, and that it's limited to those young girls living in LA wearing the yoga pants, right?
Who don't actually do yoga?
Doing a split, doing handstands and headstands, and that's such a small part of what yoga really is. And in yoga, we call it pranayama, but it's breath work, and that's a huge piece. So, yeah, most of us get up and do the morning tasks and then go to work all day in an office setting or at least some kind of indoor setting, and then come home and do all the stuff we need to at night and then go to bed in our houses. So there's not a lot of time to decompress outside. So I think linking that knowledge, even, and like you said, 5 minutes, if you can spend 5 minutes when you wake up breathing and just something simple, sit down, inhale. A really good one is just one-to-one breathing is what it's called, very simple. And it's literally counting. So Rob, with your mind, right, always wandering, you don't have to just sit and breathe and be silent. You can mentally just count in. Maybe your inhale is a comfortable rhythm of 4. You inhale for 4 and exhale for 4, and you mentally count 1, 2, 3, 4 as you inhale and as you exhale. And it's just about bringing yourself into the present and focusing on what's happening right here, right now. How does your body feel? How does the breath feel flowing in and out? And it's such a cool way to bring yourself into the present, to be more, to participate more in how you're acting and what you're saying and what you're doing. It kind of brings that presence to the rest of the day, and then finish the day with that same 5 minutes and kind of use that to decompress from your day. And just something simple like that. So there's all kinds of things in the physical asanas. The physical practice is something that we can do 15 minutes a day even, just to kind of decompress. And that actually, we were talking about different ways to release energy. Yoga was kind of way back when originally created for men to control their energy, to control that energy, and that was the physical practice, so that they could be more controlled in their actions and learn how to meditate. And that was just to move the body, to get that excess energy out of the body.
And there is, there's a big stigma with yoga, and a lot of people they're taken aback a little bit when that's usually a suggestion I give people, whether they be stressed out or people that are trying to get back into work. That's the first thing I say is, are you doing yoga? Have you been doing yoga? When I was in Special Forces, we had a guy that taught combatives, right? He was in Germany with us, and he was the guy that at lunch we'd go 3 times a week, and he'd teach us grappling, fighting, all these different kinds of combatives. He was a former UFC fighter, so he's a really, kind of guy you don't, if he looks at you cross-eyed, you just forget about it, and you walk away, and you're okay with that. So one day one of us asked him, like, dude, how are you in such good shape? He would put his hands on you, and it felt like he was going to break your bones with just his wrists. He was that strong. He said, yoga. I do yoga, man. I do yoga 3 times a day. I wake up, I do yoga. Before lunch, I do yoga. And at night, I do yoga. And we were like, yeah, right. No, come on. Really, what do you do, man? Are you doing squat? And we're like, I do Ashtanga yoga 3 times a day. And we're like, I'm going to call you out on that, so show us what you're doing. We're going to do it. So we did. We started going. First it was once a week, and then it became 3 times a week, and then it became basically every day. We'd go in at lunch or before lunch, and we'd do a series of Ashtanga yoga with them. And it was amazing because as the medic, SF guys are typically pretty beat up. They get more injuries than a professional athlete. You get torn shoulders, a lot of knee injuries, hip injuries, things like that. You have a guy that's 38 years old that's already had, a couple shoulder surgeries, maybe a knee and a hip surgery from all the stuff we do. All the guys on my team that had aches and bumps and bruises and problems, it was all gone within a few months of doing our yoga with Steve. It was absolutely unbelievable. And the way it made you feel afterwards, just feeling more connected, more level, more calm, more, just not just doing bench presses all day, but actually having your entire body be connected and in shape together. It was an amazing feeling. And it's something that I wish more people in the world did, because it not only helps you physically, but I think it helps you create that unity between your mind and body. So great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that reminds me too, just to, I guess, the difference a little bit in doing yoga versus just draining energy in a different way. yoga is, and we kind of say it's like thinking about a container, that you are a container of energy. So it's a conscious movement of energy in a way that contains the good energy and releases the not negative, but the energy that you don't necessarily need or that's not desirable. So you're actually moving in a really conscious way, not just kind of pushing energy out and not knowing why. It's working with the breath, it's working with the body, and that's containing that energy. So it's why you feel more connected, you feel more grounded. You said more, a sense of calmness. It's just kind of putting everything in its right place, using the breath and using the movement.
And that's, so it's a big reason that I got into it. For me, it was kind of almost a cathartic experience. With what I'm going through now, I've started reading, Ram Dass and things like that. I find myself when I'm getting too hectic, I'm trying to repeat "be here now" to myself. I'm trying to really get into this kind of awareness of the moment and slow myself back down. For me, it took some things happening. It took my life becoming way too hectic, me taking on way too many projects, me getting to the point where I was probably going to have a heart attack at 45 if I didn't slow down a little bit, and I got kids, so my kids are my entire life. What's that?
That's usually what it takes.
Yeah, so what did it take for you guys? So Eric and Patrick, how did you guys get into this? What was your point?
For me, I actually found yoga when I was 15, so it's been almost 15 years. And it was scoliosis, so a physical issue for me that, and I kind of dabbled with it. I didn't like jump in and do yoga every day since I was 15. It's a process for everybody. There's ups and downs, and you forget about it and then come back to it, and it happens like that for everyone. So, but since I was 15, for scoliosis, and it's, the ailments, the issues we have in our lives are blessings and curses at the same time. Like, I wish that I could just function on a normal level every day and not have to worry about my back and, different issues like that. But at the same time, would I be practicing yoga if I didn't have to keep my spine feeling good? So it's kind of kept me in the practice and kept me motivated to continue to better myself. So for me, it's been a good thing. Yeah.
So is Patrick a good guinea pig? Do you use him?
I'll let him do his own thing.
It's a very similar story, and I've talked about my story so much. I mean, I was like super gym guy. I did 6 hours a day every day at the gym. I was the bench press guy. That's what I was. And then one day my body just shut down. It stopped working, and it was 1 hour it was working. The next hour it didn't work at all. I was bedridden. I slowly started to build myself up to the point where I could actually get into a yoga class, and then I'd do very gentle yoga that really worked in that breath piece and kind of calming down the body, that whole inflammation of the body, that whole just constantly running little mouse wheel that I have in my head, eventually kind of slowing that down, working together with a lot of the other pieces. It's such a challenging piece, because when you talk about a gym workout, there's an immediate feedback. So last week I could bench this number, this week I can bench this number. That's an easy thing for our brains to say, bonus. With yoga, you have to pay attention. So when you leave a yoga class, you should, if the instruction was what it should be, you should feel amazing when you leave. No matter how you felt or what was worked during the class, there's that after yoga glow that should exist. But you have to pay attention to that. And you have to, once you start to feel better, like yoga makes you feel better, and then you feel better and you kind of feel good all the time because you've been doing yoga, and then you don't have that post-yoga like kick, that little yoga high afterwards. So you don't notice that anymore. It's still making you feel good. It's still doing all these great benefits, but because it's kind of raised your whole life up, you're now starting at this higher plane. And then after class, after you've been going for 3 months, you're like, well, I feel great. I don't need to go to yoga. But yoga's what made you feel good. So you got to keep that in mind and keep doing those things that make you feel good. Don't just do things that make you feel good. Drop it until you feel horrible again. Then come back to the things that make you feel good.
Well, that's the work. If you get in any of these programs, whether it be 12-step program or just getting weight off and keeping weight off, or getting in shape and staying in shape, or whatever it is. We live in a TV dinner, take a pill, diet shake mentality where I want to do it. Oh, I'm cool now. Okay, so I'm good. I don't have to do that anymore. We forget that you got to do the work. You got to do the work. I mean, you see these guys that are they're in AA or whatever it may be, but they're in the 12-step program or they're in some kind of program where they're doing the work. It's continuing. It's maintaining that, not just until you get in shape. It's for the rest of your life. It's trying to keep at that higher plane you're talking about, man. You're trying to get better and stay better, and you got to keep doing work.
Optimize the vessel at all times. And on that kind of, in whether it's floating or meditating or whatever it is, paying attention to that little 5 minutes of breathing. So you don't have to, if you're going to sit down and meditate, it doesn't have to be this gargantuan task of, I'm going to sit down for 6 hours, I'm going to stare at this wall, and I'm going to chant a mantra, and I'm going to feel amazing through that 6 hours. I'm not going to feel my body. I'm just going to be seated. If you can spend that little 5-minute time and just know and appreciate those benefits that come from even that tiny work, then build yourself up. So it's that, that train track analogy that I always use is 2 train tracks run in parallel. If one veers just 1 degree 200 miles down the way, they're miles apart. So it's about just that little tiny shift. Maybe it's 5 minutes today. Maybe it's 5 minutes this week. But it's that you spent some time on yourself and you spent some time grounding and becoming more. I think you guys kind of both kind of tapped around this. More you. Yoga, meditation, the flow tank. It helps you become more you.
That's a good way to look at it. Well, I mean, because when you look at people that get addicted to drugs or drinking or anything else, that they try and kind of step out of themselves and they try and kind of, I think a lot of it is trying to forget who they are. You know what I mean? It's a dissociative. Alcohol, drugs are usually dissociatives. You're trying to disassociate yourself from the horrible you may have become, or whether maybe it's the life that you don't like. Maybe it's going to the office, the job that you don't like, with a job that you don't like for money that you think you deserve more, and being miserable. It's some way to separate yourself, you know, and there's so many. And by the way, that train track mentality, I'm gonna have to borrow that. I'm sorry, because that's an awesome one. I've never heard that before. It's
my favorite one. Go away. Yeah, I love that. And
that's
so
a really good one. It is, and it's a very good way to look at it. So
when I'm in my rhetorics class on Tuesday, I'm just gonna say that and then just stop and not do anything. My professor says anything more, I'm just gonna repeat myself. My arms folded, like, where'd you hear that, Patrick? He's a wise man from the desert.
You got to pull a Costanza, man. Always leave on a high note. Just put that out there. Just walk into class, sit down, just repeat it, put that one out there, and walk right out. Just be like, I'm out. Drop the microphone or drop your books or something, and just out. I'm out. I'm gonna go be me for a little while. So that's a really good kind of a point, because we're talking about a couple of different topics here. So Patrick, you're into the meditation, but which came first? So the chicken or the egg thing? Did you get into the meditation and breathing first, or did you get into floating first?
That's an interesting question. It was definitely kind of, I had that slower asana portion of the yoga, which is kind of teetering on the line. I mean, there's less of that physical distraction in the movement, and then at the same time that I first started into the floating. So kind of some overlap in the run up, and when I had started kind of my yoga practice, it was at about the same time that I'd started floating, and my yoga practice was so new that I didn't know that there was much more than the asana, more than the movement. So kind of as I've delved into my own path, I've kind of learned more about yoga. I mean, Erica's teacher talks about yoga kind of being an onion, and the movement portion is just the very top layer, and there's so many layers underneath. I mean, I'm certainly not near the center, so I'm working my way into that onion as we speak.
Well, I think that's anything that you can get to the center too quickly, it's not that much fun. I think as humans, we always like the challenge. Well, those of us that aren't couch potatoes, we like the challenge. You never want to like peel one layer off the onion and go, oh, I just won? No. What the hell am I supposed to do now? You want to have a challenge. So you had the incident where you were working out 6 hours a day every day, and then your body shut down. That brought you into yoga. So what was it that made you get your butt into a tank for the first time?
I researched everything. So I had done the doctor route, and I kind of, at this point, I'd given up on doctors. So if there was something that existed that could make you feel better, I was willing to try it. I was buying things from every single continent. If it could make me feel better, I was trying it. So this was just one of the things that I kind of ran into in kind of some overlap of some symptoms that I have, and I was just severely fatigued. So the float tank itself is one of these tools that can really help ramp you up in this really nice, calmed, energetic pattern. So you really leave feeling calm but very energized, and my experience became almost exactly like that the first time I was in. But I ran into it just researching on ways that I could heal myself, get my life back.
Well, so that's one distinction that I've noticed a lot, because the first place I heard about float tanks was listening to Joe Rogan. Before that, the only time I'd seen it, I read a Dean Koontz book when I was a kid, where they talk about this little girl who had been put in a sensory deprivation tank her entire life. Every day they'd put her in there. She'd spend 12 hours in there, and it just basically she became telekinetic. Right? It's a Dean Koontz book. It's all fiction, but it was really, really cool because they would have her do mind puzzles while she was in there and do these unsolvable riddles, and it made her brain just get to a completely new level. I mean, if you imagine if you're doing that 12 hours a day, it would have to have some kind of either wonderful or terrible and horrible effects. But then I heard Joe Rogan start talking about it. I'm here in Los Angeles. There's Float Lab in Venice, which Rogan just talks about incessantly. He loves. That's where I started doing more research to see about it. Where did that, so the name, and I don't know, I'm a marketing guy, so I would imagine it's a marketing thing, but there was the name, Sensory Deprivation Chamber is what it was known as, and now people it's Float Lab or Float thing. Is there a difference, or is it just a kind of a change in the name?
So yeah, it's a change in the name. I would have some guesses as to why. There's some kind of dry, like there's a dry tool called the dry sensory deprivation tank too. So there's maybe to create a little bit of distinction, but in the late 80s there was a real kind of pull away from the floating piece, and it coincided with fears of HIV in the tank. So kind of you had to go back and rebrand at this point because people had been scared away from this old tool, and then even if there wasn't that, the knowledge base kind of improved, you still had this negative kind of connotation around those words. So my guess would be that would be how that change has kind of taken place. I know there was that huge pullback, and usually when there's a huge pullback, you have to rebrand to kind of move forward.
You have to, and even though that whole idea, like just either name, it's insanely interesting to me. I mean, it just makes me, I'm on board. I don't care what you call it. Call it the tank that you go in and get stabbed to death by needles. If it does that, I'm going to go, okay, sign me up, because that's what I want to go do, which was why I have horrible taste in food. I just will choose anything if it smells good, even if it's, whatever. But that's right, because there's got to be a way to change. You got to change it if people do have these bad ideas. But that's one thing I've heard Rogan talk a lot about is, number one, when you have salt content that high in the water, not a whole lot can survive in there, right? So bacteria is probably not going to survive in there anyway. But you guys change the water out between every client, right?
So no, it's. You could do it, but the float would be about $1,200 a float because there's about $1,200 of salt in there. So you have there's some interesting components there, and there's a lot of misinformation out there on this kind of salt piece in general. Epsom salt, which is what almost everybody uses in their tanks, it's not actually saline. It's magnesium sulfate. So there's no actual kind of disinfectant quality. There's no saline disinfectant quality in Epsom salt. And we've kind of tweaked how we use our tank, and we've actually used a mixture of both Dead Sea salt and Epsom salt. And that's because we wanted to raise that salinity level. So we would actually have some purification in the water itself. So there'd actually be that salt level that could work on there. And then after each float, the water itself cycles through a system of UV filtration, micron particle filtration, and that'll be a full cycle of after each use. So after each use, the water gets purified through a micron particle filtration system and a UV filtration system to sanitize the water. And then we're lucky in that we live in a state where we're not required to use chlorine, because being locked in a box with chlorine for an hour isn't
that's not good.
It's not an awesome thing for your brain. So we're lucky in the fact that we live in a state here where we can use food grade hydrogen peroxide to disinfect. So we use 35% food grade hydrogen peroxide. It's a water molecule with an extra oxygen molecule added on. So we're really lucky in that we can use all natural products to create a completely sterile environment where you really there's very little to worry about. And that's one frustrating piece. I listened to Rogan had an episode where he brought on Crash from Photo Labs, and I was really frustrated in that he had talked so much about that disinfectant piece without kind of giving that full backstory, because there's no fear of HIV. There's no that's not happening. It can't happen. It's not transmitted that way, A. And then also, I mean, the systems that are out there, they're using commercial grade UV filtration. I mean, they're using commercial grade filters, and nobody's changing the water out after each float. It's not possible to offer that to the consumer because no one can afford a $1,200 float.
I think.
Well,
sorry. I was just gonna say, I think a piece is that because it's a little amount of water and it's Epsom salt, the mind goes more toward a bathtub rather than thinking of it as a pool. So if you have company over and they go swim in your pool, you're not going to drain the pool because there's a whole filtration system, right? But a bathtub, you're just draining the water. There's no kind of moving the water or cleansing the water. So you dump it, you get rid of it. So that's what I tell people. Think of it as a pool, not a bathtub. So there's a lot behind the scenes, but no, we're not changing the water every time.
Well, and that, the UV filtration, for anybody that doesn't quite know what that is, it's funny because I actually used that today. Before we left Yosemite, I took, we had 4 kids with us, and I took them out. I'm teaching them, so the book that I'm about to release is all about a lot of different things, but survival is another one. So I was teaching these kids about survival stuff. I showed them how to make a fire, how to use a jet boil, how to do a lot of things, but one of the other things was we use a UV light, right? So I had the kids go get a bottle of water straight out of the river, 20 feet behind the house, bring the water back, and I have a UV pen, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to disinfect water, and I taught them that. You can either boil this water for 10 minutes, but we only have this amount of fuel, or I can take this UV pen and shove it in this water for 48 seconds, and it's going to kill 99.999999% of any bacteria that ever be in there. And I explained a little bit about why that works. Being a medic, I kind of know how that stuff works. But it's safer than it would have been to boil the water, safer than it would have been to put chlorine in there, safer than it would have been to put iodine in there, because it's UV light, kills everything. Yeah. I mean, it's a great tool to have, and it's good that it's not $1,200. What's that?
The great natural sanitizer, the sun. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So. Do you guys both so in Vitality? Do you have both offered? So do you have a yoga studio and the float in there in the same studio?
We do.
Do you guys offer any kind of crazy just rejuvenate your entire self where you can go yoga float or float yoga in the same bam 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 like a kind of a factory for the soul?
You could go yoga, massage, then float. That's the real true way to do it.
You drive people home after that? Because I don't think you could walk after that. All you need is Reiki, have a Reiki session right after that. You're just done. It's I'm out. Peace out.
Market for a new best friend, but I plan on moving to. My preferred goal would be to move to the greater Phoenix area in a few years. So
come on down.
Come on down. I'm moving in. I'm moving into your studio.
Well, you know, and that would be. There's a lot of stuff going on with the vets right now. You know, like PTSD. Been around since long before Vietnam, but in Vietnam it started becoming kind of a quantified thing, and they still don't know what they're doing to treat it. I've seen a couple movies, a documentary that I reviewed where they were using some real deep yoga to try and help guys with PTSD, and they had a lot of success. They had a lot of success with these guys, and it's not a demographic that would typically walk into a yoga studio. We don't look as good in yoga pants as a lot of the, you know, hot soccer moms do. So it's just guys that we have a little bit more difficulty, but you know, sometimes it takes that. It took a UFC fighter that beat the hell out of us every day to go, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this. But if you could offer that to that community, if you could find a way, and Adam might be the key, but if you could find a way to tap into the veteran community, it really is. It's amazing how much that helps for a guy that has combat experience, that has those demons deep inside. You know, the first way you get rid of demons, you got to know about yourself before you know about the demons. And that's the only way you can really cleanse that. And doing stuff like that, yoga, shamanistic breathing, meditation, float, of course. I think all those things would go really, really hand in hand. It'd be a great thing if we could get more of the veteran community in there, in your studio there, in Vitality, especially, you know, I know there's a lot of people there in the Arizona area that there's a large veteran community. They could probably use that help.
Yeah, and I think you guys would be doing a better job than the Phoenix VA. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, man, exactly. Well, that's, you know, I wonder if there would be a way to tie in, because they have those vouchers now that they're going to give guys. If you're not getting adequate treatment at the VA, or if they can't see you or whatever it is, you get a voucher you can just take and go see somebody private. That'd be awesome if, hey, I can't, there's no shrink at the VA there in Phoenix that can see me. Can I take my ticket down to Vitality? Because I'm going to go get a float and a massage and a yoga session, and I think you'd be good for a month after that.
I can't talk to a counselor, but I get a massage. If I'm somebody in charge, yeah, because I've had a massage before that just sometimes it's better than talking to somebody. It's just like, I don't know what it releases. I'm sure it releases a lot of things, tension, stress, you know. But it's just like, it's relaxing, and I think sometimes, like PTSD especially, I think the biggest step. I don't think there will ever be a cure, but the biggest step to, you know, being able to cope with it, live with it, you know, and deal with it is just to relax. You know, I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, but our society is not very conducive to relaxing, man. When you got your phone, you got the TV, you got so many loud noises and ambient light and just everything all around all the time, it's next to impossible to relax. You know, even if you're not actively doing these things, you got telemarketers, somebody calling your phone, or something going on to where you just cannot kind of be in the moment ever. Our society likes to take it out of you, and that's the great thing about places like Vitality, where you offer people this. It might be a window, maybe it's an hour window, maybe it's a 3-hour window, but it's a window of their day that they can put all that stuff aside and go get to know themselves. That's awesome.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah, how do you, Eric, especially, how do you get people like people at first time, you know, visitor, first time practitioners, I guess you would say, of like meditating or yoga, like that initial, just relax, just let go. How do you basically tell a person, you know, put your guard down and you know, trust.
That's a tough question.
I'm trying to figure that out. She's like, it doesn't work. I tell people to really.
I have a feeling people are more trusting of her than of you at first glance, Joe. Just a hunch.
Let me jump in, because I've seen it so many times when Erica teaches a class. It's not about kind of that direct, hey, this is what you need to do. It's about incorporating and working that movement piece with that breath piece and linking those two things together. And when you link those two things together, the energy shift that can happen in the body, I've seen it so many times with people leaving that first class where it's physically shaking because they've moved this energy in their body for the first time. There's kind of this awakening, and it's a really skilled kind of yoga teacher like Erica can link that breath work with the movement, and I see it all the time. So she may not be willing to say that, but I see them coming out of class, and I see people physically shaking for the first time. I mean, like, what happened in there? It's yoga.
It's not funny is like the guys that don't relax. She just grabs them by their head and literally. They come out looking like that. It's different.
I think my teacher, and it's just kind of what we say as teachers, is that if you do your job correctly as a yoga teacher, you don't have a job anymore, because our job is to guide people back to themselves. And when they find that, then they don't need you to guide them anymore, because they found their way back home. So I think that's the hope that we have when we lead a class, and people come from all different elements of their lives, different ages, different things they're dealing with, and some people just aren't at a place to be open to it, and they'll take a yoga class and they'll walk out and think nothing of it, and it's not for them. And maybe 10 years later they come back to it and it's a completely different experience because they're ready. So the student has to be open and willing, and then from there we see what happens.
Yeah, well, and that's probably got to be one of the hardest parts in today, is getting people there to actually understand just how many benefits there are of it, because there are a lot of just stigmas about who goes to yoga and who does yoga and what it's for, and a lot of people don't really understand all the benefits. So what do you guys do? Like, is there a point where you try to teach people about all of it? Is that like an intro class, like, hey, by the way, here's all the great things that you can get from this if you keep up the practice?
Yeah, it's a tough piece. I mean, ultimately there's kind of 8 steps to yoga, and one of those is the physical practice that everyone thinks about when they think about yoga, but meditation is yoga, and breath work is yoga. You know, certain kind of the yamas and the niyamas tell us how to function in daily life, to be, you know, truthful, to take care of our bodies, to eat healthy. It's all these little aspects that are yoga, but when you say the word yoga, it's separate from all of that other stuff. It's just spandex in a room.
Well, our society loves to take a word that has a great meaning and twist it around. Karma. You know, most people don't actually know what karma means or what karma is in the true Buddhist philosophy. They'll just say, karma, man, leave me a tip or you're not going to get karma. Not karma, dude. Okay. But, yeah. So that, like, you're right, because I didn't even know that. I had always associated yoga with that, and the breath work is a separate thing. So it is all part of the practice that's fully enveloping your life, not just doing a pose in a yoga pants.
Yeah. And yoga means to, it means union, and to yoke to something that's beneficial to you, that's taking you down the right path. So, I mean, yoga can really then be anything that leads you down the right path for you. So
now,
yeah.
with the misconceptions, like, of, you know, like posing in the pants and all that stuff, are there things that you've noticed, like, within the community, like things that you've seen that are bad habits, or I don't know. I guess in a way some of it would be up for interpretation, but have you ever seen something like, oh, that's kind of like the elixir of yoga? It's like, you know, just putting a stamp, you know what I mean, like a snake oil salesman, like, this is yoga, and then they show up to you and like, what is this? What, I mean, have you seen anything that's like bad habits or things being passed off in the community that's not really, I guess, helping?
Yes. Yes. It's, I think anything...
Name off all the competitors within the greater Phoenix area.
No, I think anything that starts to gain popularity and is absorbed by more people then translates through all those people in different ways, and then they kind of steer away from what that original intent was. So, you know, the stigma is kind of true, the LA yoga girls and spandex. So that's a piece of our yoga culture right now in America, and it's kind of a bummer because it's not what the original intent is. But yes, it does exist. It's not that it's not true, but that's not all that yoga is. And we just had conversation in a class that we attended, and there was a lot of yoga teachers in that class, in a situation that you think would be like the ultimate yoga practice. Mm-hmm. And we didn't feel it like it was, because there was almost this power play of the teachers, and it was loud, and everyone was kind of talking because they knew each other, which was cool, but it also lost the whole effect of the class to really be there and practice and be present in that energy. It was a pushy energy of people just kind of volleying for their spot to talk, and they're, sharing that they're a teacher at this place or that place. And so, yeah, it's a bummer when that happens.
Well, it's, in a way, I think it's comforting to know that even, like, there is no, I guess, little clique or community or society that has found that level of, peace and tranquility.
Nobody's perfect.
Even yoga instructors try to one-up each other. That's refreshing to know. Like, my Nirvana is better than your Nirvana, I can tell you that much.
And that's a big part. So on that physical side, there's the social media aspect is really interesting, in that it does kind of encourage some competitiveness in yoga, and those seem like they're kind of opposing. Mm-hmm. And I think in the traditional aspect of yoga, being competitive in poses is not really in line with the roots. But at the same point, like Erica said, it's all yoga, so it's kind of it's headed in the right direction. So if you found that first layer that her teacher talks about, if you found that first layer, that's great. That's awesome, and you may spend that first layer on Instagram, kind of in a headstand or whatever. I've done it, but is that really going to give you the benefit? Is that really shutting you down to bring? Is that really bringing you back into yourself? Or is that kind of more expanding and sending out signals both directions? So yes, it's yoga though, but it's still yoga, and that's great. Like, all yoga is great, and it's headed down that right step. But not everybody's gonna start and finish on the same day. It could be a lifetime process before you're kind of, once you've lost that physical ability to move and you're just laying in bed. Hey, now we have yoga for this last 30 minutes, that breath work, whatever it is. I mean, I think yoga can be too boxed in. Let anyone that's practicing, that's beneficial. Practicing yoga is beneficial. I really believe that. So however anyone's practicing, that's beneficial. And then they're trying to do something for themselves. Could you veer that train track just a little more? Yes, you could always veer it a little more, but starting that little tiny creek, that's yoga.
So what's the final step or the final goal? Because I know, there's, Erica, you said in the beginning it was kind of a way for men to, control their different emotions, and, it is a chance to find yourself and do that. So, in Buddhism, the final step is enlightenment or nirvana, as maybe it's, as Americans, we need to have a, what's the beginning, what's the middle, what's the end, what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what do I do next? Like, what is the point where you go, oh, this is the center of the onion? What is that? Or is that a personal thing that's different for every person?
I think it's I think it's an infinite onion. I don't think the
I'm sorry, I was just thinking death in my head, and you're like, death? I'm like, okay.
You want to get technical when you're talking about Buddhism. So in yoga, it's called samadhi, and that's the final chapter when you've reached that.
Cool. And so that would be that kind of version of enlightenment. That would be the period where you've met this. You've I guess gotten to know yourself, right? You've become inner knowledge.
Yeah. Know yourself. Everything else.
So on that same respect, well, that's it's a phrase to us, but it's interesting. You look at any of the ancient mystery schools at Heliopolis or in Persia or in ancient Egypt. Know thyself is a very knowing and intricate thing to do, and it's a mantra that's been repeated for years and years and years. I think the most highly trained adepts throughout history have always known the most important thing you could ever know about the world or the universe is yourself. It's a lot more complicated than it seems, and a lot of our society, again, doesn't spend enough time trying to get to know themselves before they get to know other things or other people. So on that same token, you guys, you practice yoga, you guys, you've got Vitality, so you obviously spend a lot of time in this kind of enlightenment and working on a lot of these things. Are you outwardly religious or spiritual in any other way? Do you follow any kind of organized religion, or is this your inner religion? Is your spirituality your religion?
I'll go.
And if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to answer. I know no politics, no religion. I'm particularly interested because I have a very unique view on organized religion myself. So yeah.
I don't belong to any organized religion. I mean, Catholicism was kind of my mom's path growing up, and then she steered away from it. So I have a little bit of experience in that. But for me, and I know there's that, what is religion versus spirituality, but I don't belong to any specific religion. Kindness is my religion, right? More of the spiritual path, following that for me. It's kind of working every day, trying to be the best you can be is, I think, the best that anybody can do. And it doesn't have to be forcefully guided by anyone or anything.
I like that. That's a good answer.
Yeah, and that's, I grew up Southern Baptist. I grew up in Texas. Catholicism is a lot of the same, where they say if you're not in church, you're a sinner and you're going to go to hell. Well, if God is everywhere and He was omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent, does He really care if I go to this one building, or is the fact that I spend a large part of my day getting to know me better and honoring Him through that and being kind to people, is that better than just going to that one building for 1 hour a day and then being a dick to everybody the rest of my life, right? Yeah. I think you'd appreciate that a little bit more.
live a positive life, yeah. Create positivity when you're gone. That's a pretty good life goal. No matter what kind of your end thought is, it's leave a positive remembrance.
Right, and just live your life. Just be a good person, and that.
Be a good person.
For as much as people hate about Christianity, there is, the whole golden rule, and actually that doesn't even come from Christianity, but they talk about it a lot, that just treat others as you want to be treated yourself, right? Yeah. It's a pretty good mantra to live by. Yeah. So Vitality, you guys are in Chandler, Arizona. What's the best way for people to find information about you, to find out where to find you, where your hours, where exactly you're located? Where should they go, and how should they contact you guys?
Vitality.com is an encyclopedic website. There is as much information as we could possibly kind of get out of our brains, as much as we can possibly get in there. So there is more information than hopefully anyone is willing to read, but hopefully we answer every single question you could possibly have. But Vitality.com is the perfect place.
Vitality.com. So, and I'm a marketing guy. Vitality.com, Vitality.com, Vitality.com. And we'll put it out anywhere that we can. We'll post it on Twitter and Facebook as well, so we can get out to more people. We know that you already gave out an offer for a deal with Joe on Tactical 16, so that might be something worth repeating, it so that any other veterans listening get a hold of that and know that that's available. Because I personally, that's a big thing with me. I've got 4 or 5 combat tours under my belt, seen a lot of crazy stuff in my life. It's been an interesting life that I've lived so far, and so I'm coming to this part. I truly understand and appreciate just how much something like that helps somebody in a situation like mine, whether it be stress from work, whether it be combat experience, PTSD, just unhappy with what's going on in your life. Something like this where you can go in, and for me it's amazing because yoga or even massages if you're doing it the right way, or float tanks in and of themselves can help you get over a lot of these problems that you're having. But to have all of that in one place and to be able to go from one to the other, That still just blows my mind. That's unbelievable. It's like you packaged lightning in a bottle, and it's right there waiting for you.
You're not that far. You'll have to drive out.
Well, I'm thinking about
tomorrow, and it's that little slogan's going to be under Vitality.
Well, we're actually planning. So I'm planning. I've got a book that's going to be released sometime in the next month or two, and so I'm flying out to Colorado in 2 weeks to go map out where I do my book signings, and I might have to find an excuse because I know that I want to be in the Phoenix area to go talk to Adam and those guys, and so I think. I don't know. Is there a Barnes & Noble in Chandler? I think,
For sure.
yeah, I think I might well end up there pretty soon on this tour because that's again the fact that you guys have all that stuff in one place. That's just mind blowing for me. That's unbelievable. So anybody that has that deal, what is it that you guys offer for people to listen to Vets on Media?
Yeah, so anybody, feel free, come in, let us know you saw us here. We'll offer 25% off on anything that you do in the studio.
Sweet.
I'm going there. I have a wait there, and I'm gonna come in one day, and then the next day I'm coming in at a mustache and hungry.
Well, in that, we know that there is a pretty big veteran following out there, so hopefully anybody out here listening, either seeing this on the radio or hearing this through iTunes or vetsonmedia.com, find your way up to China and take advantage of this. So Vitality.com is the website. Again, we're going to put it out on Facebook, on Twitter, and everywhere else that we can. So anybody in that area, either in Phoenix or Chandler, and I'll be there at the beginning of next week, that's for sure. So anybody go out there and take advantage of this. That's an amazing deal. So Patrick and Erica, thanks again for joining us tonight. Thanks for helping us kind of spread a little bit of knowledge to any of our listeners who might not have known exactly what yoga or a float is. But thanks for what you're doing, man, because, again, like you said, just putting a little bit of kindness out there in the world, it's making it a better place for everybody. And I got 2 kids I'm trying to raise for this world, so anybody that's trying to make it a better place, my hat's off to you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having us on. And I just want to throw one last little thing out there. We didn't talk too much about the PTSD, but there's a cool article that we were talking about how do you get kind of people to let go of the stigma and come in and understand more about it. But Yoga International did an article that's pretty cool. It's called A Soldier's Heart, and it's you can just find it online. It's where I found it. But it kind of talks to that PTSD population specifically and what yoga can offer them and why. So that's a good one to check out.
Cool. I'll share that on the Facebook page and Twitter. There's a documentary out there. I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, it's amazing some of the experiences they're having and some of the help they're giving some of these guys. So yeah, anything that helps, because again, drugs not generally the best way. Whether it's prescribed or recreational, they're not the best route. They really help guys that have those problems. But a float, a massage, and a yoga session, I think that very well could be.
We are looking forward to seeing both of you guys come in, so hopefully that happens soon.
I'll definitely give you guys a heads up before we go out, because that's going to be on my stop now. I just can't believe that I can get out in one day. Yeah, you guys got me. You're going to have trouble getting rid of me. You might have just bit off a burger you don't want to have to deal with. But Patrick and Erica, again, Vitality.com, Vitality.com. Thank you guys so much for coming out here. Thank you for sitting down and talking with us this evening. We're going to put this out everywhere that we can. Hopefully, some more veterans can take advantage of all these great things that we're doing. And again, even not veterans, just anybody can go and get to know themselves a little bit better.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you guys.
Good seeing you guys again.
You as well.
Hey, Rob, I think you got a really nasty feedback on your end.
I think it was their it was the iPod. I think it was their iPad, because I've had that happen a couple times before. You ever hear somebody call into a radio station and they go, "Hey, turn down your radio because we can hear it." I think that's what it was. yeah, it's it kind of breaks the cycle if you stop that. But anybody that, if that sound got a little bit too hard to understand, again, their website is www.vibetality.com. Again, that's vibetality.com, and they're in Chandler, Arizona. The deal they offered was 25% off of anything in the studio for anybody that says they heard you here, either on Tactical 16, on Center Mass, or on anything just on Vets on Media. And that really is an amazing thing. That's, I write about it a little bit in the book, just briefly, in The Pact, in my new book that's coming out. But it really is. I mean, I wrote about it in my first book, in Let Me When I'm Gone. I got back, I got out of the Army. I was a little rough, especially after my last Iraq trip. I was a little rough, man. And there are a couple of things in my life that helped a lot more than booze ever did, that's for sure. And that's getting to know yourself, whether it be through meditation. For me, it was masonry and, getting involved in a lot of other things. But just having some kind of healthy outlet to get to know yourself and really have a chance to step back from the crazy stuff that's going on in your life and kind of come to center. It's amazing how much self-actualization and self-realization can really do for you. And that's yoga, meditation, floating, man, that's exactly where you do it.
Yeah, I tell you, I wanted to ask them, but it's just like when you have two people that are very, level, very grounded, and understand, they have a better understanding of what can affect you in a negative way, what affects you in a positive way. When you have two people like that, everybody has, I guess, disagreements or arguments or whatever. I wonder what happens when you have two very positive people like that.
I think, I don't know, because my first my marriage was a very toxic relationship with, it just didn't work out well. The girl that I'm dating now, Natalie, that's one thing that it really has, I don't know, it's taken some getting used to, actually, being in a very healthy relationship with two, very positive and supportive people. And that is, I got that same vibe from Patrick and Erica, just the fact that not only are they level, but they seem like they're both very supportive of each other. And that can make or break a relationship. I mean, it really can. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes. And for somebody that's never been in a relationship like that, it's amazing how different it is. It really, to go from a toxic one that's unsupportive and unadult to a very adult and supportive one, it's like an elephant has been sitting on your chest your whole life, and then all of a sudden it gets off. And that's a conversation that...
And it's not even just in a personal relationship, even a professional relationship where you have, I'm sure you've had it, whether it's in the corporate world or in the military, when you get somebody you're supposed to work with and you just butt heads constantly, and it's draining, Yeah,
and it's stressful just showing up because you got to be around that person.
Yeah. I've been there a couple times, like, oh my God, you're my boss. And would you ever go on leave? See, you have 85 days of leave. Can you use some of that? I had
those people never take their leave, though. Those people just love to be there to make you miserable.
Yeah, and I'm sure somebody that worked for me said the same thing, because I had plenty of leave. That's why I had 67 days of leave saved up. I'm sure there was someone below me oh my God, would this guy just go away for a week? And I never did. So
yeah,
I'm sure I think people think about me at times too. So
Yeah, but it's nice. It's really good to see. It just, again, my kids are pretty much the reason I live my life now. Everything about them, I just love them. I want to make sure that they have every opportunity they can, but also they have a great world to grow up in. That was this weekend I got to spend at Yosemite with Natalie and her kids. Her kids are awesome. I love her kids. Her kids really are. They're smart, and you can tell a lot about a person by how their kids react around them and to them. That's one thing Adam Carolla always says about Donald Trump. A lot of people say Donald Trump's a D-bag and he's an idiot, he's a pompous, whatever. But watch his kids around him. Carolla was on The Apprentice with Donald Trump, so he actually got to see him interact with his kids. His kids are grown up, but they love the hell out of him. And Donald Trump, he doesn't give a shit what you think. I'm sorry, but he doesn't. He doesn't give a shit what any of us think. But the fact that his kids think that highly of him, they understand that's his persona and that's that thing. But when it comes time to be dad, he must be doing a good job because his kids love him. Yeah. And that was that's one thing I really enjoy about Natalie and I really respect about her. Not only do we have, like, we've had arguments, but they're very adult arguments. It's not throwing stuff and yelling and screaming. It's very, oh, okay, well, I didn't know I was doing that. I didn't realize that makes you that upset. What should we do to get past it? You know, it's adult, which is very different from my last relationship. But the fact that her kids love her and respect her that much, for a guy like me that all I want is a better world for the kids to grow up in, you know, I love seeing that. Any person out there that makes the world a better place or exhibits that kind of kindness, whether it be towards kids or just towards the world in general, I love. I wish there was more of them. Somebody lock those two in a cage and make them breed and watch them all the time because we need more of them out there. Unfortunately, the people that are breeding are the assholes that, you know, are making everybody angry and not contributing anything great to the world. We need more people like Patrick and Erica having 1,000 kids, so there's more little them that can open more float labs and yoga studios and make the world a better place.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? It's like it's almost not even fair because they're in a part of the country where my perception of like the desert Southwest, maybe not Phoenix in general, but just that area, it's a little more peaceful, a little more laid back, a little more like when it's 120 degrees outside. Other things are minuscule, you know. It's like, you know, it's just okay. It seems like a peaceful, tranquil place, the desert, and not necessarily the desert I saw. You know, people like that, they should be in areas that are just toxic, like New York, Chicago, Boston. No, yeah. Nothing nice ever needs to step foot in Boston. It's just you don't want to taint it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say when they were talking about Float Lab. You know, I was kind of thinking that a little bit earlier also because, you know, so where they are in Arizona, pretty chill people. Like out here in LA, like Float Lab that we talked about, Venice, California. Yep. It's like you can throw a rock and hit the beach. You know, there's a lot of places that are like that, and so it is kind of unfortunate. It makes perfect sense. But it's kind of unfortunate that the majority of these places are in places where the population is pretty cool, pretty laid back, You're right. I mean, it would be kind of like a nuclear bomb at the epicenter of assholes if you could just put some more yoga studios and some float labs or some float studios in the heart of New York City or in, you know, these places that are generally just bad. But, you know, that would be bad business because in all honesty, like you said, I know you said it jokingly at the beginning, I kind of like my hate or whatever, but like people that are in that kind of environment, it's a lot harder to get those people out of their environment and realize, you know, somebody that's grown up their entire life in downtown Chicago or in downtown New York and just been around that, it's really hard to make them understand that life can be a lot more enjoyable, you know, if you just find a way to be peaceful.
And that's the thing. It's like I consider myself a very well-rounded individual, a very peaceful person. I understand the goal. I know what I'm striving for. I kind of feel like I know what the inside of my onion is.
I love that. I love that saying, man.
Yeah. I tell you, but you want to see me very uncomfortable and almost like wanting to crawl out of my skin? Put me in an area with a bunch of nice, happy people. I don't know.
Like Mormons?
Huh?
Like Mormons?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You put me in a room full of Mormons, I don't know what would happen. I might explode. I almost feel as if I need that negative energy around me to kind of balance myself. It's like that omnipresence of negativity. I kind of need that to always, you know, try to continue to keep myself afloat. I don't know, you know?
You know, I can't tell you. I think it's... I don't know if it's something that I just watched, if it's a documentary that I just watched, but I think it's from this How to Win Friends and Influence People audiobook that I'm listening to. But, you know, that's one very important thing that whoever it was said, is that if you want to know what your future is going to be like, look at who you're hanging around now. If you want to be an asshole in your future, are you hanging around assholes? Do you want to be rich in your future? Are you hanging around rich people? Do you want to be nice? Or are you hanging around nice people? And it is, you know, especially when you're younger, you never want to say, well, no, I am whoever I am. I'm just hanging out with these people because I like them. Not really. You become the company you keep. It really is. And so if you, if you,
I don't mean company. I mean I have very little friends. So, I chose it. I chose it that way. I like my best friend in my life. I hung out with today. We went to the football game together, and it was just, he's an old pair of shoes. I just put him on, and I could take a nice walk. He's one of those people in my life that's always been in my life. He's just a great person. I don't like my mother is very negative, and I have little contact with her, just enough to, Mom, here I am, I love you, unconditionally. Ugh. And but I would not hang out with her every day. I tell you that much, because she is such a drag. I mean, as Erica said, it's a bummer. My mom is the ultimate bummer. It's just like I can't have that constant contact with somebody like that. But to keep her around, it's like, just reminds myself I don't want to be like that. You know what I mean? So it's
well,
like
and
a tattoo of like you, for example, get a tattoo of your ex on your arm.
Oh God!
Every day, and that's that reminder. Like, you know what? Always onward. Don't do that, Natalie. I'm not condoning that action, by the way. Just that would be that. Just that. Always have that reminder. That reminder. You look down. Oh, yep. I know what I'm striving for. To look away from that.
See, I totally understand that, because I'm a very goal-oriented person, and so that might work very well for me. But I tell you, like this weekend, so I am big on the company that you keep. My dad has told me that my entire life. I didn't believe him until I was probably 20-something years old, but I totally get it now. So this weekend I went with John Grease Bastard, a friend of ours, friend of the show, friends of the whole Vets on Media and Tactical 16 networks. He's got a podcast, Chairborne Radio, that he's on. Good people, and I just love, more than anything, hanging out with good people. And it was like a perfect storm of a great time, because for me, a great time isn't going out to the club and getting all done up and hitting on chicks or drinking. That's not me. A good time for me is exactly what we did this weekend. Like, we had the kids, we took the kids to Yosemite, no phone, no computer, hanging out with really good people. Like, we fished, we hiked, we made great food, we were communed with nature, we played board games at night. When was the last time you played board games? It's amazing how much fun that is. Like, we played board games with all the kids, then the kids went to bed, and then the adults played our own board games. And it was fun. And we sit up talking, stay up late, and then get up early, make breakfast, and just being around good people, doing good, wholesome things, just having a great time. Like, for me, where I constantly push myself so hard that my battery is just constantly draining, to go out there, like, I went out there and my battery that's normally about here was down. It's been on fumes for the last few weeks, and it's fully recharged. I mean, we spent, it was 8 hours driving both ways, so we, spent a day and a half when you take out the travel time we had to have, but in a day and a half, that battery is charged for months. Nice. Just because I have that, even if it's not reliving the memories every day, my soul is lighter, because I just felt so good, man. And you'll only get that around good people, because if I went if I went even to that, on that same exact trip to the same exact place, but instead of having John and his family, I'd been with just total douchebags, it would have been the exact opposite, right? Because you get in those close quarters and it's with people that are rubbing you the wrong way or just annoying you, your battery ain't filling, man. Your battery's going way beyond empty, and at some point you're going to murder each other, right? So
I had an encounter on Thanksgiving with somebody who's a friend, but I just think it was like a perfect storm of that person not being happy or being aggravated or being confrontational, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it. It just I think maybe he was having a bad day, and it affects people, like, to run on fumes, constantly. And I hadn't seen him in a long time, but it's just, that's what I took out of it. It just seems like, man, that guy just needs to, like, reset himself. So
Yeah, and that's a big thing that, like, John and I had a conversation about that on Saturday. And I know you said Patrick kind of came from a background where he worked, he's in the corporate world, and it was the stress that got to him. That's one thing that I truly believe in now. When I was at UCLA, the Army, I don't know, that stuff, but you're working on muscle memory most of the time. When I was working at UCLA, I was getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night because I was commuting. I was going to a job that was very high stress, commanding a couple $1 million worth of stuff every day. People's lives were on the line if you didn't have something there on time, very stressful stuff, and not getting any sleep, and then driving through the concrete jungle for 4 hours a day, and not having any time with nature or really any time to decompress or be with people. Like, I felt like I was kind of living on the razor's edge the entire time, because there's really no release. And I was in a toxic relationship with somebody that didn't support or appreciate or anything or congratulate me or anything. And all those things, I know how you feel, because I was not a happy person. I wasn't really. I probably could have been a lot nicer. My sense of humor went away for quite a while, and that's that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're affected by somebody and you know it's affecting you, just imagine what you're doing to other people around you. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes you get that understanding, or the sympathy of others, or whatever the case may be. Like, if you're in a bad relationship and the person's just negative and brings you down, but just I mean, maybe that's the thing. If you're having a bad day or having a bad time period, imagine what you're doing with that negative experience in your life, and how you're affecting others.
You're
Whether,
pushing it on other people.
or be friends or coworkers. Yeah, you can't just keep it bottled up. I know when I was having problems with my ex before we split up, I took maybe all the opportunities of what people would deem sympathy, and looked at it as like, now I'm a problem, and I became, in a way, the person that I was trying to get away from. And I think vice versa. And it's just, well, it's a bad thing. Sometimes you just gotta know when to stop it, when to chop it.
Yeah, and you eventually, it's very contagious, and that's a very well-known thing in the Army. You get the circle of hate. One person starts complaining about whatever detail you're on, or what the leadership's doing, or whatever. One person starts complaining, then another, then another, then another, then another, and it just becomes this big cycle of negativity where everybody's just bitching and complaining. And it's a thing that I've been seeing a lot on, of all places, social media. But this whole saying, and I saw it in a movie again this weekend. Was it a movie? I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was On the Way Back. But that whole idea of try to take a day of not complaining once. Just 24 hours. Just one day from waking up to going to bed. Don't complain about anything, and see how much it changes your life. Because it not only changes you and affects you, but it affects the people around you. When everything that you say to other people is positive, when you smile instead of frown, when you're in a good mood, it's not just affecting you, it's affecting everybody else around you and how they react to you. Because as humans, we're very reactive in nature, vibrational energy, we all kind of get into the same aura. And if you're the one that's bringing everybody around you down, everybody around you is going to be down. So try the opposite. Try not complaining. Try being happy. Try being positive. Just do it for a day and see how much it changes everything that you do.
Yep, that I agree with.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. That would be nice. One of these days it'd be nice to just be surrounded by nice people, cool people. I don't know. I don't know if that day will ever come though.
You never know, man. I mean, I have some friends that are just insanely happy and insanely positive, but I think we all have the the Donna Downers in our life. There's always somebody. And people have bad days. Even if people aren't traditionally upset or negative people, there's, everybody has a bad day every once in a while, so you got to understand that. But there's a difference between a bad day and a bad life. People just complain and.
Yeah, there are those people that it's just like, man, why do you keep waking up on that side of the bed? Like, something. Don't. There's a wall blocking you from getting off the other side. You try the end. You try another way. Jump, leap, something.
Yeah.
Like, I know those people, it's like, no matter what, that person, in the most eloquent of words, is a douche. Sometimes, I don't know, any bag of, vinegar water did maybe not be the nicest thing to hang out with. So it's a deep. So
yeah. So I guess that's so on our lessons learned for the day. Just be a good person. Just try and exhibit kindness. Be happy.
Yes. And speaking of kindness and be happy and stuff like that, we have a guest that's going to be on next week. I forget his name and the title of his book.
Joe Descala. Or Frank Descala.
Frank, yeah.
Frank Descala?
I thought it was Frank or Fred. Yeah, Frank Descala. And he is Tactical 16's first veteran author from the Vietnam War. So that'd be cool. That'd be,
yeah, that'd be really cool, man.
Yeah. I'm looking.
Here's book's doing really well. So if anybody out there is listening, go check it out. Go to tactical16.com or Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com and look it up. I hear it's flying off the shelves.
See, it's crazy. I've just thought about it. I'm like, I kind of feel like listening to Patrick and Erica. I'm just like chill inside right now. I don't even want to do the show. I mean, we're out of time, but it's like I just want to go chill, relax, have some inner reflectiveness. So.
I want to go do yoga right now, but it's not so good at 9 o'clock. But I actually do have. So anybody that's out there listening, if you're like me and you have trouble with that, and Erica was right. A lot of people get kind of dismayed if you can't devote an hour a day to go do yoga. But she was very right. It doesn't take an hour. You can devote, and Natalie told me the same thing. I've had a lot of people say the same thing. Start with 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night. And then eventually move that 5 to 10 on both ends, and then 15 on both ends. And like she said, yoga is not just the poses. You don't have to get into yoga pants and get a yoga mat out and do yoga in your living room. It can be breathing. It can be meditating. It can just be quiet time. I have a 4-year-old that we're doing that now. He's moving away from naps, and he does quiet time. It's amazing how much just sitting down and counting your breathing or being aware and being in the present moment can do for you, even if it is only 5 or 10 minutes a day. So do that. Make sure, start bookending your day with that. I have guided meditation, some CDs you can get. There's a thing called the MARC, Mindfulness Awareness Research Center from UCLA. I can't remember if it's MARC EDU or MARC.com. It's one of those, MARC, where they have guided meditation. They have mindful awareness, guided stuff. You can download it to your phone or your iPod or your computer and listen to it, and it guides you through meditation. So you don't have to worry about that not being able to shut your brain up anymore. But really, if you can just devote 5 or 10 minutes morning and night, it really does make you appreciate things a lot better. And it makes you balanced. It makes you a lot more balanced, which I think is what a lot of people in our society needs, because that imbalance is what's creating a lot of fear and anger, and again, that just breeds negativity. Mm-hmm. So yeah, go check it out, man. So again, Vitality.com is Patrick and Erica's website. Even if you're not in the Chandler or Phoenix area, go check out Vitality.com. Like they said, it's an encyclopedia of knowledge.
Nice site. I've gone on it quite a few times. I like it. I've learned some things on there, and it's a nice looking site too. As soon as you look at it, it's like, oh, that's peaceful. It's a peaceful site. There's no flashing or anything like that. None of this stuff. So yeah, but I don't have a best worst tweet of the week. I did, but I don't. Screw that. But I do have one a quote on there from one of my most an individual I have so much admiration for, because I believe he was a great artist. And there's an Arizona tie-in, because I think he died in Arizona. But Frank Lloyd Wright. I loved architecture. For a long time I wanted to be an architect, and that was it for me, was Frank Lloyd Wright. And he's got some houses in Buffalo, so I've been able to see my whole life firsthand some of his work. And he had a very good quote: "Many wealthy people are little more than janitors of their possessions." So, and I like that. I think that fits perfectly.
That is a good one. Yeah. Don't let your things control you.
Yeah. And this is coming from a man that very wealthy people live in the houses he designed. So maybe his creation was. Maybe his message was lost in his creation, but yeah.
Yeah, or maybe he just got really rich and then was able to find himself, laugh his way all the way to grave.
He's a very interesting guy. If you ever get some time to check him out, I saw an exhibit about him at a museum in, I don't know if it was Madison, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee or Chicago. I don't know where it was. Very interesting guy. Very, very interesting guy. Um, Fascinating. He led quite the life. I mean, I think two awesome figures for me, Mark Twain and Frank Lloyd Wright. It's very similar in a lot of ways, but and they loved being married many times over.
Yeah. They liked it so much they had to do it several times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, and on the note of just trying to spread as many positive things as we can, I think I just want to add, make sure you go check out vetsonmedia.com, of course, tactical16.com, ironmikemag.com. Check out the Tactical 16 Facebook page and Twitter, as well as the Center Mass with Rob and Silent J Facebook page and Twitter, and Vets on Media Facebook page and Twitter, Iron Mike Mag Facebook page and Twitter. I've got my new author page out there on Facebook, Robert Patrick Lewis Author, where I put out all kinds of information for the upcoming book stuff, wherever we're going to do the release dates and parties and all those things.
Is that the cover you sent me? Is that going to be? Is that the final?
So far, there's another couple of tweaks that we got to make. Brian from Iron Mike is designed the cover, and I'd say it's about 98% done. There's one thing that I asked him to tweak a little bit, but yeah, he sent me. I got it. When I was on the drive back this afternoon. I think that's it, man. I think he struck gold because that last one that he sent was pretty pimp.
Now, my question, I don't want to give it away, but in the center, in between the words, the pact, what about if that was melting?
I wanted it to be on fire. I wanted there to be flames. And I don't think we can go too much further without giving it away. Yeah. I'm going to post it at some point as soon as it's
like a candle wax almost, kind of like, or it's coming out of something. I don't know, but it's phenomenal. It looks nice. I saw it. I said I forgot what I sent you. Like hell yeah, or that's awesome. Oh yeah, that is effing awesome looking. That was my response.
Yeah,
so.
It really was, man. I was very happy, and it was just one of those, good begets good. Like it was a great thing to come away from a great weekend and get some great news with a great cover from a great guy. Like, just made my day, man. Just made it a little bit better. So yeah, that's as soon as it's ready, I'll be posting it. We'll post it on Center Mass. I'll post it on my Facebook page on Author, my Facebook page, my Author Facebook page, so everybody can have a look at it. But yeah, it looks pretty sweet, and I'm excited. And that's the thing. There's going to be 3 books, so we can change each cover up a little bit. But the first one. Yeah, that's going to be it. Maybe the second one will have melting or fire or something like that. But yeah, I was pretty happy with it, man. I'm very particular about the cover, and I'm very happy with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I judge books by their cover. I do. Just the books, not people. People too. But I am a judgmental guy, and
that's a great thing until you're an author, man. Because if you don't want your book to be judged by its cover, you're gonna be poor as shit. Because most people do.
That's why, like, when mine is finally done, mine will be done in the spring.
Sweet.
April 1st. That's it for me. I have been thinking so much about the title and the cover because those are the first 2 things people are going to see. They're going to see it and they're going to read it. And it's like, for me, you're not even going to look and see what's inside if you don't enjoy what's on the outside,
Yep.
So,
exactly.
So that's the most stressful thing I've mentally played in my head. I probably had some great ideas and just discussed it with them internally, and I'm like, nope, I'm not even going to let them see the light of day.
Right.
Because I'm like, well, if I go to a bookstore, no, I'm not buying that. So,
yeah. Well, on that note, again, everybody remember to check us out. Check out the Facebook page, check out the Twitter, Center Master Rob and Silent J, also on Google+. If you follow us or add us to your circles on Google+, you can join these hangouts every Sunday night. We record live 7:30 Pacific Standard Time, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Whenever you join us live for the hangout, you can actually take part in this. You can add in questions, comments, bitches, gripes, concerns, and actually take part in the live recording of the show. So without anything else, without further ado, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us tonight on Center Mass with Rob and Silent J. I'm Rob.
I am Silent J.
And remember to stand your ground Don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have a war, let it begin here. We're out, nice and kind human beings.
We're not starting a riot tonight. It's been enough of that, so I got something better.
Okay.
Invited feelings, they come without warning and they stay too long. I don't wanna feel, but if I run, it'll be just as long. I've been waiting for some kind of a sign. I try to separate my